Happening now, early voting was supposed to end an hour ago, but these are live pictures right now. Hundreds of people still waiting in a very long line in Gwinnett County. And we found lines all across the metro area.
I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to do more than vote, even though it took us 2 hours.
New at 6, we're breaking down when you could see even longer lines.
Live, local, late breaking. This is Channel 2 Action News at 6 p.m. Coverage you can count on.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jovita Moore.
I'm Justin Farmer. It's your voice, your vote. And thousands of people found lines snaking through the parking lots as they lined up to cast an early vote in the presidential and local races. New at 6, Channel 2's Wendy Corona live in Cobb County, where voting ends, Wendy, in about an hour. And officials there telling you that we could see even longer lines in the upcoming days.
It could happen. Everyone lining up to get one of these. Their I'm a Georgia voter sticker. And the county's director of elections did tell me that there are always larger turnouts on presidential races. In fact, here in the county, they expect between 75 to 79% of eligible voters to come out and vote. And on this first day of voting, where right now there is no line, they sure have come out to vote.
The wait well over an hour.
Regardless, people flooded into the Cobb County Civic Center in Marietta, one of 2 locations currently available for early voting in the county.
We do see an increased number of people that come out on the first day.
This day, a double milestone for Grace Schickler.
Nothing compares to voting for the next president on your 50th birthday.
By noon, the Board of Elections estimated it had already serviced about 1,000 voters at this location and warns of peak numbers not only on day 1, but also during the last week before Election Day. Teresa Jenkins always makes it a point to early vote.
This is the most crowded I've ever seen it. It took us over 2 hours in line to vote, and the line is much further along now than it was when we got here.
Well over an hour.
Some folks decided to try again another day. The wait time simply too much to bear.
If this was Election Day, unfortunately, some people might not have been able to cast their vote.
Voters can also choose to wait until Election Day and vote at their assigned voter precinct when lines may not be as long.
And I'm really pleased that people are taking it seriously enough to get out right now.
And so far, they're telling me about 1,800 folks have come out here to vote. There is no line right now. This voting location closes at 7. The only other one in the county is at Whitlock Avenue, where the Board of the Elections offices are. They close, however, at 5 o'clock. They're also saying the other busy times for voting is always that last week of early voting before the election. For now, we're live in Marietta. In Cobb County, Wendy Corona, Channel 2 Action News.
And in the past hour, we've learned more than 1,100 early voters cast their ballots in Gwinnett County as of 4 o'clock as we bring you county-by-county coverage.
Here's a live look now at Lawrenceville. The elections office there scheduled to close at 5, but officials said anyone in line could still vote. The line stretched for more than 3 hours today. We spoke with people who stayed optimistic.
I wish Gwinnett they would have opened up the satellite locations today, but this is fine.
I think it's great. I think it's going to be a very close election. Let's see who wins.
Gwinnett County will open 7 additional early voting sites on October 31st.
In South Fulton County, election officials are looking into problems in at least 2 of their sites. Early voters told us that voting didn't start at 7 a.m. as was scheduled, and they also endured long lines.
In DeKalb County, we caught up with early voters at the elections office on Memorial Drive in Decatur. Poll workers saw a steady flow of people today. Donald Trump calls this November election rigged, and his running mate blames the national media. Reaction to those claims coming up in 15 minutes.
A local police sergeant had an emotional response during an exclusive interview with him and his lawyer. He faces charges from an encounter with a teenager. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie live in Clayton County on this, and Mark, that lawyer, questioning why his client is being treated differently than others in another case in his view.
And his lawyer says a child cruelty charge was tossed out by a judge, but that still leaves 2 other charges and a police veteran with his career and much more at stake.
I'm not big on putting people in jail because a lot of people don't understand the law. If you explain to them, look, these are the consequences of your actions, then maybe, just maybe, you can get them to think about it and stop doing it.
Is he guilty of battery and false imprisonment?
No, Kevin Hughes is guilty of not wanting to criminalize a child.
You love what you do.
I mean, more than you ever know. Give me a second.
Now Kevin Hughes is being criminalized.
If you could have avoided charging Kevin Hughes?
Absolutely. From the chief on down, we would have. But the circumstances dictated that we had to at this time.
Clayton County Police Sergeant Kevin Hughes says he's passionate about police work, that he's in it to help people, not hurt them.
I don't mistreat anybody.
Now his lawyer, Steve Fry, says Hughes' efforts to help a family have gotten him arrested.
It's an old school way to try to tell a child, look, wake up. This conduct is going to land you in the criminal justice system.
Deputy Chief Joe Whitall says a 15-year-old's mom asked Hughes to talk to him after he allegedly fraudulently used a family credit card that Hughes had counseled him before.
Proceeded to place the child onto the floor and handcuff him. There are allegations that he struck him.
Did Sergeant Hughes strike the child?
No.
Handcuffed him when there was obviously, at that point, no danger.
Fry says Hughes faces criminal charges, while 3 officers in a similar case earlier this year faced only internal discipline. Whitall says in the earlier incident, after a 17-year-old female was struck 3 times with a belt by her mother while the teen was handcuffed by one of 3 officers on the scene, all 3 were suspended, but an internal investigation turned up no crime. He says Hughes is well-liked and honest. And a police report indicates that an officer says that he was notified that the victim came to the school nurse because he had a headache and reported the incident to her. Now, Fry says, and there's something similar in a police report, at one point Hughes talked to the teen about the shooting death of his own stepson after a bad decision. Reporting live, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
Tonight, a North Fulton County Police Department's reassuring neighbors after reports of a suspicious man approaching kids. Roswell police say someone called them to report a man driving around in a van in the Barrington Farm subdivision off Old Alabama. When police arrived, the caller was not at the scene. Investigators say there's no evidence any children were actually approached.
Day 7 of the hot car death trial, and today we heard from witnesses who were with Ross Harris the day his son died. Channel 2's Carl Willis is live in Brunswick, and Carl, Harris's attorneys tried to discredit evidence that Harris wanted to live his life without a child.
Well, we've heard from the state's witnesses all day, but the defense may have been able to use some of them to try to discredit some of the prosecution's evidence, especially the theory that Ross Harris wanted to live a child-free life. Ross Harris's work friends Winston Milling and Alex Hall testified Monday, detailing how they picked Harris up and went to lunch with him, ran an errand at Home Depot, and then dropped Harris off at his car, where his son, 22-month-old Cooper, had been trapped all day.
And the way this is...
But perhaps the most pivotal moment of testimony came when Hall testified that it was he who sent Harris a link to a page on Reddit entitled Child Free.
Did you see what Ross's response was?
Yeah, he wasn't for it.
In fact, his response was grossness.
Yep.
According to the description, the page refers to those who do not have and do not ever want children. The state is using Harris's web history, including a visit to that page, to show that he wanted to live child-free. But co-workers say Harris never said one bad word about his son.
You never heard Ross talk about living child-free, have you?
I have not.
But you have been witness to him being a very engaged, loving parent, haven't you?
I have.
Jacqueline Robledo says she slowly learned about Ross Harris's home life, but testified that was after they met to have sex and months after Harris began exchanging explicit messages with her.
Did he tell you, did you have any idea he was married or had a kid or anything like that?
I did not.
And we'll talk about it later on. Did you eventually find out?
Yes.
Robledo testified that Harris glowed about Cooper, just not about his marriage.
Did he say anything about his family life or how his marriage was at the time?
I know he wasn't happy.
Now, we also heard testimony from a teen who was 15 at the time, who says she exchanged explicit pictures and messages with Harris as well. That testimony was blacked out because she is a minor. Reporting live in Brunswick, Glenn County, Carl Willis, Channel 2 Action News.
The man convicted of killing an Atlanta police officer plans to use his recent autism diagnosis to ask for clemency. Gregory Lawler's hearing is set for tomorrow. A jury convicted him of murdering Officer John Soa and critically hurting Officer Patricia Koshalone in 1997. Lawler is scheduled for death by lethal injection on Wednesday.
Today, Governor Nathan Deal announced the new director of the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency. The current director, Jim Butterworth, will step down December 1st. Deal named Department of Corrections Commissioner Homer Bryson to this position. He also recommended the nomination of Greg Dozier as the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections. Now new at 6, more local law enforcement officers now using body cameras. Douglas County Sheriff's deputies started wearing these cameras this month. The department bought 160 of these cameras. The Sheriff's Office hopes the cameras will help increase credibility with the public.
A family member of one of 3 men accused of murder testified that his cousin never told him he was involved. Target store manager Pamela Williams was killed in a home invasion. As Channel 2's Tom Jones reports, prosecutors found that odd since phone records showed the two talked right around the time of the murder.
John told me that he accidentally shot his lady.
Joseph Hockaday told police in this interview that family friend Jonathan Banks admitted to him he shot Pamela Williams inside her home in November 2013. Williams, a popular Camp Creek Target store manager, was hiding in her closet and on the phone with 911 when someone broke into her home and shot her in the head. Hockaday repeatedly denied in the interview Banks told him who he was with that night, and he said the same on the stand.
He never specified names who was with him.
But prosecutors said that's not what Hockaday said during this police interview. At the end of the interview, Hockaday confirms he was told his cousin, James Sims, and James Calhoun were with Banks during the break-in. But Hockaday testified he only said that because officers brought his wife into the interview room and threatened both of them with jail since they allowed Banks to stay with them after the murder.
I didn't want my wife to go to jail. Right. Somebody else's mistake.
Clint Rucker asked Hockaday if he ever discussed what Banks told him with his cousin Sims or Sims' mother. He said no.
Because I just told you something I didn't want to be involved in, so I didn't go around having conversations with people about it.
That was Channel 2's Tom Jones reporting. Testimony has wrapped up for the day. We could hear from another woman who was shot during a home invasion when the trial continues tomorrow.
New at 6, are we ready for a cyber war with Russia? The CIA is ready to respond for interfering with the U.S. election. How an expert tells us an invisible war could affect our daily lives.
I'll show you how record heat will build in over the next few days and an updated look at a big change in air masses, the pattern, and when we'll go from the upper 80s to the upper 40s straight ahead.
A woman is thankful after her husband and granddaughter survived a plane crash.
There is a God, and all of those paramedics were his angels.
New this hour, she tells us about the stranger who jumped into action the moment he saw that plane go down. That's live next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Mark Spain Real Estate. Your home sold, guaranteed. MarkSpain.com.
New since 5 o'clock, a Henry County family is thanking a witness who rushed to the scene of a plane crash to help a man and his granddaughter. Channel 2's Matt Johnson is live at Grady Hospital. That's where the pilot is getting treatment today. Matt?
That pilot just got out of surgery this afternoon here at Grady. His 8-year-old granddaughter is in a wheelchair today because of the crash. But despite the injuries, the family says they have a lot to be thankful for. The family of Jamie Thompson and his 8-year-old granddaughter, London, say the two are inseparable when they're together.
They do everything together when she's there, when, you know, he's home from work or when, you know, I mean, everything.
Now, both London and the man she calls Big Dad have broken bones and a long recovery ahead after a Henry County plane crash.
She's brave. She's a trooper. All she wants to know is how her Big Dad is, and all he wants to know is how London is, because they're in 2 separate spots.
Sunday afternoon, Thompson was taking London back home in Cherokee County when his Cessna 150 crashed. It happened just after takeoff at around 2:30 at Berry Hill Airport in Stockbridge. When Thompson's wife, Jennifer, saw the wreckage, she immediately began to pray.
And I said, God, just be with them right now, because the plane was crushed.
She says a man who lives near the airport saw the crash and rushed toward it to get both of them out before first responders arrived.
Corey Smith is the gentleman's name that saved my family that day.
Thompson and London were traveling with the family dog who died in the crash, but may have saved London from head injuries.
London had her in her lap, and she was basically London's airbag.
The family says they wouldn't be surprised if both of them are flying together again someday soon.
I hope they do. I hope they share both of them's passion.
Federal investigators are working to figure out exactly what went wrong. It's still a mystery to the family because no one on board remembers anything after the takeoff. Live in downtown Atlanta, Matt Johnson, Channel 2 Action News.
And they are both so fortunate. Matt, thank you.
The Georgia Supreme Court upheld a murderer's conviction and sentence. In 2012, a Cobb County jury convicted Wasim Dacre of the 1995 murder of Delta flight attendant Carmen Smith. Dacre also stabbed Smith's then 5-year-old son. Dacre serving a prison sentence for life plus 47 years. In appealing the case, Dacre argued the trial court treated him unfairly.
We are seeing clear store surveillance video that shows men who police say used a man's credit card after they robbed him. Take a look at the two men here at the counter. This video is from a Foot Locker on Memorial Drive in Stone Mountain. Police say last month the victim met with these two to sell watches. One pulled a gun and stole the man's phone, wallet, several watches, and money. If you know who these two men are, call Crime Stoppers at 404-577-TIPS. That's 404-577-8477. You don't have to leave your name. You could get a reward.
All new at 6, the chairman of the Fulton County Commission tells Channel 2 Action News the people running the troubled Wolf Creek Amphitheater will face discipline if there's evidence of any improprieties. John Eves tells investigative reporter Richard Belcher that he and other county commissioners were mostly unaware of the problems.
Justin, reliable sources tell me Fulton County's auditor has already identified more than 25 specific problems at the music venue in South Fulton County. We've reported on violations of county purchasing rules, which the commission chairman, Mr. Eves, confirmed today.
There was some misalignment in terms of practice with policy.
Misalignment meaning purchasing rules were broken.
Purchasing rules were certainly not followed based on the preliminary assessment right now.
Chairman Eves told me he wants to make sure the operation of the facility is above reproach because it's enormously popular in South Fulton County, and that's the county about $1 million a year. But our sources say above reproach is not an accurate description of the way Wolf Creek has been run. Eves calls the initial audit findings disconcerting. I'm hearing you and the other commissioners have been briefed in written form by the auditor and that there are more than 24 findings. That sounds pretty serious.
Well, I mean, that's the preliminary assessment.
Might people be fired?
I don't know yet. I will certainly say if there is a series of improprieties and things were not done properly, disciplinary action will be taken. I just don't know exactly what that will mean.
I asked the chairman how much of the blame should be placed on him and his fellow members of the county commission.
Now, what we don't know, we just don't know. And so now that we are finding out what they are, we certainly are in the position to make the right decisions to correct whatever errors that have been made.
One decision the commission's already made is to limit elected officials to 4 free tickets per event.
And so I'm very, very comfortable with that.
Chairman Eves says no specific date's been set for releasing the audit to the public, but he believes we'll see it in a matter of weeks. Live in the newsroom, Richard Belcher, Channel 2 Action News.
Your voice, your vote. A White House spokesperson is dismissing Donald Trump's claims that the November election is rigged. Trump's running mate is on the campaign trail today with the same message.
I have no doubt the national media is trying to rig this election with their biased coverage in Hillary Clinton's favor.
White House spokesperson Josh Earnest said studies and investigations have found no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Hillary Clinton is not campaigning today. She's preparing for this week's third and final debate. State elections officials are also disputing claims of a rigged election. We contacted Georgia's Secretary of State. Brian Kemp told Channel 2 Action News that Georgia's voting equipment is battle-tested and officials have earned voters' confidence. The White House says it is preparing a response to Russian hacks against this year's elections. We're breaking down what a potential cyber war could look like. That's coming up in our next half hour.
Police in Fayetteville say a parental escort policy at the Tinseltown movie theater is working 100%. The Fayetteville Police Department says they've had no incidents involving teens since that policy was enforced. The city implemented that policy in May. It requires anyone under age 17 to be accompanied by a parent or guardian after 8 p.m.
Gwinnett County residents could face new rules limiting how long trash is at the curb. Peachtree Corners City Council plans to hold a second hearing on the ordinance tomorrow at 7 at City Hall. The rules would only allow trash cans after 3 p.m. the day before pickup until 9 a.m. the day after pickup.
Aggressive parking enforcement affects you when you come to Atlanta for work or fun. In the last hour, the city postponed a vote on a new contract. New at 6, the other plan critics say would make a major improvement.
A deputy is accused of causing this fiery crash as she was transporting 2 inmates.
Everybody's just scrambling to get the inmates out.
The action that investigators say caused the crash.
We're working to learn the charges against a Whitfield County Sheriff's deputy who ran a stop sign and slammed into a camper. It happened on Highway 52 in Hall County. The female deputy was carrying 2 inmates when she crashed. A driver who was pulling the 39-foot trailer gave us this cell phone video of the fiery crash scene.
From the impact, she kind of went under the trailer, lifted the trailer and flipped it. And because it basically scrunched the cop car, took all the fuel lines, I'm sure, with it, and it just started on fire.
Doctors are treating the deputy and 2 inmates for non-life-threatening injuries.
The Georgia Supreme Court rejected an inmate's appeal. He is serving several life sentences for a series of violent home invasions. Gustavo Cisneros was 18 years old at the time of the crimes in 2004. Prosecutors say he committed armed robbery, burglary, and sexual battery. The court ruled there was sufficient evidence to uphold his convictions.
New in the last hour, we obtained video from inside a local pharmacy that shows an attempted robbery unfold. Fayetteville police say the man went into the Walgreens along Glen Street with a gun and demanded prescription drugs. Here you see him holding a gun to the woman. She was not hurt. The string of crimes detectives believe the same man may have committed, and what made this case especially dangerous. Tonight on the Channel 2 Action News Night Beat at 11.
A popular Kroger store is closing next week to make room for a new multi-million-dollar development. Store officials made the announcement today. It is the Kroger on Ponce de Leon along the Beltline in northeast Atlanta. It's closing next Friday. Crews will immediately start on a new development, which is officially named 725 Ponce. The $190 million redevelopment features a new Kroger with a 12-story office building above the store.
Senator John McCain says Republicans would oppose Hillary Clinton's Supreme Court nominee if she were to become president. McCain made the premature comments today during a Philadelphia talk radio interview. An aide later clarified that McCain would look at the qualifications of anyone nominated for the high court before making a decision.
Georgia Power is shutting down more than 100 local offices, impacting how some people will pay their bills.
It's going to be an inconvenience for them. I believe it is.
New at 6, what the company plans to do with all those employees.
A decision's on hold for the Park Atlanta contract. And new this hour, the other enforcement options some say the city should consider.
Drought conditions are bad now and getting worse with the lack of rain and record heat in the days ahead. I'll take you through that part of the forecast and a look ahead towards a pattern change. We will have a chance of at least a few showers and a big drop in temperatures. That's coming up next.
Now your local forecast from meteorologist Brad Nitz and Severe Weather Team 2.
Well, a lot of sunshine today. We're tracking the cold front that brings the big drop in temperatures towards the end of the week.
Brad, thank you. More than 100 local Georgia Power offices are closing this week, and if you normally pay in person, that means a change for you. Channel 2's consumer investigator Jim Strickland is live at one of the offices in Douglasville with what happens to the workers from that office. Jim?
Jovita, the company has been giving customers postcards like this with information about the closures, posting signs on the door as well. You know, Georgia Power says that over the last decade, the number of people paying electronically has tripled, making little offices like this costly and obsolete. But if you're not online, that means you can choose to wait in line at the grocery store.
We took a hard look at the numbers with customers, they're looking at their changing needs, and we made some adjustments around that.
In the metro, these dozen locations are closing. Georgia Power's Craig Bell says the utility social media center is helping get out the word that 4 of 5 offices statewide will shutter on Thursday. Douglasville customer Evelyn Springer hadn't heard. She was there in person to pay.
It hits me pretty bad because I have to go somewhere, so I go to Kroger somewhere to try to pay the bill.
The company will have 5,000 authorized payment centers assisting customers by year's end. Places like grocery stores and Walmart. They don't take checks or credit cards, and it costs an extra $1.50.
I don't think you should have to pay your own bill. I don't think that's right. They have to figure out ways to making their payment if they have to mail it in or things of that nature, and that could delay the process as well and making sure their light stays on.
270 employees are affected, though they're being offered other positions. 2 Douglasville staffers will stay with the utility, but it's unclear how many will actually be laid off. 27 offices across the state will remain open.
We still will have customer service locations throughout the state that you may have to drive a little further to get there.
Now, in the link section of WSBtv.com, we're including information on the site you can go to find your nearest authorized payment centers for Georgia Power. Also, in the web version of the story that we're posting online, you'll find a phone number and that link as well. Reporting live, Douglas County, Douglasville, Jim Strickland, Channel 2 Action News.
Police have identified the woman who died while crossing a busy road in Cobb County. A car hit 50-year-old Kelly Willis on Cobb Parkway near Wiley Road in Marietta last night. Investigators say Willis was not in a crosswalk. The collision shut down the street for more than 2 hours. Right now, no charges have been filed. A road in Marietta is now being closed for a month because of a broken pipe. Rockwood Drive between Jamerson Road and Gray Rock Drive will stay closed until November 14th. Crews will install a new 48-inch concrete pipe. Workers also plan to repave this area.
Someone attacked a woman while she was leaving a doctor's office.
Always worried about being in a place alone.
The move that could have made her an easy target.
Guns, pot, meth, the big bust in one Metro County. Investigators are hoping will improve safety.
A new version of the Cold War, new at 6, the brewing cyber war with Russia and the impact it could have on everyday life here in the U.S.
Now we are just 2 days away from that final presidential debate. Both candidates gearing up for that big night in Vegas. Voters in the key battleground state, Nevada, say their biggest concerns, immigration, security, and taking care of the elderly. Now, the White House says it is preparing a response to Russian hacks against our political system. New at 6, Channel 2's George Colley taking a look at cyber war with Russia and what it could look like.
A new Cold War could be brewing. The White House is echoing comments made this weekend by Vice President Joe Biden, saying the U.S. is prepared to respond to alleged Russian interference with this year's presidential race.
Whatever response the president does settle on is one that we are unlikely to announce in advance.
White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest would not say whether the U.S. already responded with any cyber counterattacks or how it would respond in the future.
The range of responses that are available to the president aren't just limited to the cyber sphere.
We need to figure out what a proportional response is.
Frank Salufo is director of the George Washington University Center for Cyber and Homeland Security. He says a response must be public to deter not only the Russians, but other countries.
It also needs to be something that won't unintentionally escalate into a hot war.
Salufo says first, the countries must decide what the rules of engagement will be in a cyber war.
I think every form of conflict going forward is going to have a cyber dimension to it.
Salufo says a precise attack is needed, like releasing documents exposing Russian censorship or that could embarrass Russian leadership. He says the U.S. shouldn't do something as serious as cutting off electric power grids.
Whatever we're doing can be used against us.
In Washington, George Colley, Channel 2 Action News.
And the U.S. government acknowledged last week it believes Russia is behind the hacking and release of thousands of Democratic National Committee and Clinton campaign emails. A trail of hacked emails recently released show Hillary Clinton's campaign staff worried about a response to the gay community. That is in less than 15 minutes on ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir.
A Rockdale County man is in jail. He's charged with possessing weapons and tens of thousands of dollars in drugs. John Gray is facing narcotics and weapons charges. Rockdale County deputies showed us some of what they seized from him after a months-long investigation. They say they also found marijuana and meth.
Rockdale County streets are safe. This just makes it safer.
Gray is in jail without bond and awaiting his first court appearance. A teacher accused of having sex with students will stay in jail. A Fulton County judge denied bond for Christopher Brown today. The denial came after prosecutors said Brown contacted his alleged victims, telling them not to testify against him. He's charged with enticing a minor in Fulton County. He's also accused of sex with a 17-year-old at Mount Perrin Christian School in Cobb County, where he taught.
A potential delay in the case of a teenager charged with killing a 13-year-old boy as he slept. The new order the judge just issued.
After years of complaints, the city of Atlanta today delayed a vote to end the Park Atlanta contract. New this hour, the change some drivers say the city should make instead. Drivers will have to wait to learn who will enforce parking in the city of Atlanta. Late this afternoon, City Council postponed a final vote to replace Park Atlanta. Channel 2's Barron Peterson is live at City Hall. That's where council members say they are ready to make a change. Barron.
Yeah, some members made it very clear they want to replace Park Atlanta. In fact, an agreement's already been drawn up with a new vendor, but it looks like it's going to take a little more time to seal a deal. Atlanta city leaders are looking at a plan to replace the company that enforces parking regulations. Some say the city itself should do the job.
People say this is just parking, but it's law enforcement. You know, it is a function of public safety.
At Monday's City Council meeting, officials looked at a proposal to drop Park Atlanta. Critics have accused the vendor of being too aggressive, sometimes ticketing cars before the time on the meter runs out. Final vote was set for this session, but some members wanted to tweak the agreement with a new vendor.
They made some major changes after we adopted, and I think that will require them to come back to us, but I think that we can at least have a document with the legislation so that everyone is clear what the contract terms are.
Park Atlanta has monitored 2,400 meters and ticketed violators in this city since 2009. State Senator Vincent Fort was the only person to speak up during the public comment period of the council meeting, and he repeated his call for the city to assume the responsibility.
We want to be able to call y'all when they do wrong. We don't get much response when we called Park Atlanta, and I don't think we're going to get much response from the new company.
A city leader said the vendor they want to replace Park Atlanta, it's called SP Plus Municipal Services, has a feature that would allow drivers to use an app on their smartphone, and that would give them a heads up when their meter's about to run out. That way they can avoid a ticket. More live in downtown Atlanta, Barron Peterson, Channel 2 Action News.
New at 6, the Atlanta City Council honored a local musician, and we were there today as the council proclaimed this Hamilton Bohannon Day. Friends and fellow musicians praised him for his work. The Noonan native attended Clark Atlanta University and is known as one of the leading figures in 1970s disco music.
I always tell my children, I tell everybody, your name and your character carry you through life. And evidently, I've been doing all right.
Bohannon's also built a reputation as band leader, songwriter, and record producer.
New developments this afternoon. A judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation for a teenager accused of murdering a 13-year-old boy. Police in Carroll County say Malik Davis killed Nazir Rodriguez as he was sleeping in his bed in 2014. Davis's attorney says his client is erratic, paranoid, and delusional. No trial date is yet currently scheduled for Davis.
Investigators say 3 men accused of plotting to blow up a Muslim housing complex are part of a bigger movement with the Georgia Connection. Federal authorities have charged Gavin Wright, Patrick Stein, and Curtis Allen. Investigators say the men wanted to blow up a Kansas apartment complex where Muslim immigrants live and worship. Investigators say the group the men belong to is part of a larger militia known as 3 Percenters, which is also active in Georgia.
Alpharetta police think 2 men responsible for a canine getting hurt also stole cell phones. Dashcam video shows the men run a red light. This is North Point Parkway during a high-speed chase. Police say they found at least 24 stolen phones with Enoch Lewis and Courtney Blake. This is video of the canine Mathis. Just last week, he's recovering from a 30-foot jump off an embankment to catch those suspects.
Police are searching for 2 teens accused of attacking a 63-year-old woman outside of a medical office. Investigators say the teens attacked the woman as she was getting her purse out of her trunk in this garage in Alpharetta Tuesday. We talked to a woman wrapping up an appointment who says that she is from New York and is always concerned about being alone.
You don't take the garbage out without locking the doors.
Yeah. Police say the woman did not get a good look at her attacker, so that they only have a vague description.
Brad is here now with a final check of the forecast. He has the latest from Severe Weather Center 2.
The sun getting low in the horizon sets at 7:01 this evening with a mostly clear sky, beautiful sunset. Temperatures going to be dropping out of the low 80s into the 70s here shortly. So as you make your plans for tonight, a mostly clear sky will be down to 73 degrees by 9 o'clock. Still in the low 70s until midnight, and at midnight we hit 69 degrees. A mostly clear sky through the overnight early morning hours, 64 at 5 a.m. Temperatures are going to remain very warm. We start at 65. We'll be nearly 80 by your lunch hour, and our high temperature 86 degrees. Check out this updated 5-day forecast. 86 tomorrow, 88 on Wednesday, 85 on Thursday will all tie or break records for the date. Then a cold front by Friday comes through, brings a few clouds and showers and drops our rain chance, or gives us a rain chance, still only fairly small at 30%. Then drops our temperatures to 49 by Saturday morning, 69 with sunshine Saturday afternoon.
For the first time in months, we're hearing from Donald Trump's wife, Melania. Does she stand by her husband after all the controversy? Next on ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
The Dow Jones Industrials average closed down nearly 52 points. The NASDAQ was down just over 14.
Falcons head coach Dan Quinn saying today he expects the league to review this play late in the fourth quarter, where Seattle's Richard Sherman clearly holds Julio Jones and prevents him from raising his right arm to catch that pass on 4th down. Everyone knows the outcome, though, will remain the same, but everyone also knows a flag should have been thrown for pass interference. Quinn had plenty of time to look at the play on the flight home from Seattle, and he addressed it late this afternoon at Flowery Branch.
I was certainly, like I said, take that as a competitor where I thought it would have gone the other way. But the message I gave to the team, it does not come down to one play. We had our opportunities in that ball game to make game-winning plays earlier, and we didn't do that. So it just so happened on that one, it all got magnified on it.
Yeah, Quinn's exactly right. One play never wins or loses a game, as there are many crucial plays throughout the 60 minutes. So how rare of a drop was this from Julio Jones that was tipped into the air and picked off by Seattle? Well, it was Julio's first dropped ball of the season, and the turnover led to a Seahawks field goal in which they took the lead for good. Now, according to Pro Football Focus, coming into Week 6 action, Jones was one of just 3 receivers in the league to have 39 or more targets and 0 drops. Afterwards, Seattle's Richard Sherman said the Falcons were fortunate to score 3 third-quarter touchdowns.
Because it was blown coverage, we shouldn't have ever given points. I mean, we could have stopped them. We could have held them to nothing. And they scored on blown coverages. I mean, the one Sanu call was a great play, but the other 2 were blown coverage.
I thought we had a good game plan and we're aggressive in the passing game and, put up some points on a very good defense, but just needed 1 or 2 more plays to finish that game out.
Episode 4 of the We Never Played the Game podcast is out. Jeff Schultz from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and I visit with arguably the best soundbite in Atlanta, Georgia Tech head football coach Paul Johnson. This week, Paul discusses the numerous job offers he has received since he's been at Tech and the one time he wanted to punch out a referee. It's the We Never Played the Game podcast, available right now for free on iTunes. Johnson and the Yellow Jackets head into the bye week on a win. The victory over Georgia Southern snapped their 3-game losing streak.
We sure haven't played our best football yet, both offense and defense. Hopefully that's in front of us. But, anytime you win, it's good.
Both Georgia Tech and Georgia have the bye this weekend.
All right. Thank you, Zach. Thank you for counting on Channel 2 Action News. Stay on top of breaking news on WSBtv.com and by liking us on Facebook.
Go ahead. You probably have already, but if not, get our app. You can watch streaming video of our newscasts.
We'll see you again tonight on the Channel 2 Action News Night Feed at 11. ABC World News Tonight with David Muir straight ahead. Have a good evening, everyone.